Welcome back to Shine at the Park, the podcast where you explore the intersections of culture, identity, and the stories that shape who we are. I am your host, Shine. Have you ever felt like you didn't quite belong in any single country or culture? If you've ever felt like a third culture kid trying to find your ground, this episode is for you. Today, I'm sitting down with JeongEun Park, a distinguished division director in Toastmasters. We dive deep into her personal journey of moving between the US and South Korea, dealing with culture shock, and finding her voice along the way. Let's jump right in.
Thank you, Shine. It's an honor to be invited here. My name is JeongEun Park. I've been a Toastmaster since 2018, and I've been in Korea since 2017. Uh, Besides that, I am currently serving as Division A Director. For those of you who are not familiar with Toastmasters, it's sort of like a manager position for about 16 clubs, 16 Toastmaster clubs. But there are area directors who do most of the day-to-day work. So really, I'm very glad that I have the help of my area directors. But I understand that we're talking about things a little bit besides Toastmasters as well. So a little bit more about me. I am, let's see, 37, 38 years old currently. And of those 38 years, I've probably lived in the States for about 21 years. So yes, as Shine mentioned, I do sort of have that experience as a third culture kid. Although in my case, I went to the US when I was 1 years old. So I grew up, my childhood was mostly based there until the age of 9 when I moved back to Korea. And then I moved back again in high school, so it's a lot of back and forth.
Oh, that's why you are good at speaking both languages. It's not really common to be very good at both languages as a bilingual person.
Thank you for
And you,
saying that. I mean, you
yeah,
could sort of say that I am adequate at both, but not a master of any of those two languages, though.
you're being humble and modest here. Guys, you have to know that this person is capable of managing six different clubs, and this person, Jeongin, I think she is the esteemed Toastmasters and also distinguished Toastmaster who's devoting herself for others as well. And your pathway is very admirable for me. So and I wanted to ask you, I know we are not really talking about Toastmasters, and I just wanted to know about you and about different cultures and how you figure out your own identity. So, first question, when you first moved to America as a young person, but I think we have to switch this question because you were born in a like kind of like you lived your youth in America. So when you came back to Korea, what was the biggest culture shock that you realized your world has just expanded?
I've thought a lot over the years. I guess the biggest culture shock I had when I moved back to Korea was also a little bit about culture, but also sort of involved with class because prior to moving to back to Korea, um, uh, y- it didn't seem like my classmates really cared about what kind of house I lived in or what social economic status I was. But when I moved back to Korea, those things were pretty prominent. Like, kids would talk about what kinds of cars their parents drove or how much pocket money they had. So that was a little bit strange to me because I never really had pocket money to spend myself. But when I moved back to Korea, like there were these shops like 문방구's, and kids could pretty much buy what they wanted there. So it was
Mm,
sort of an introduction to economy and class, and a little bit also about being conscious that I didn't really fit in with that kind of norm.
mm. So do you think, well, in Korea, do you think like people are more focused about like how they were projected by what they own? Like
I
they are
think
more conscious
so,
about it?
yes. It might have just been my experience in the US was limited because I was very young and there wasn't a lot of continuity from school to after school. But those things were a little bit more upfront in Korea because um,
Mhm.
usually in Korea, it's a bit more of interest to the children, should you say, where do you live? And who are your friends that you hang out with after school? And what hagwons do you go to? So maybe Korea is a more close-knit society, and
Mm.
that's why where you fit in and how you present is a little bit, might have been a little bit more important.
Okay.
Oh,
Then did you feel more isolated kind of as a kid because you didn't have things in common with other kids and maybe you're not very interested in like showing up what you had at the time, then did you feel alienated?
yeah. So my speech, I'm not quite sure if this was the speech you were talking about, but the speech dealt a little bit with that issue when I first moved back to Korea. I felt like I didn't fit in, and I found it hard to relate with other people because I felt like if I tried to connect, my otherness showed a bit more. So yes, you could say that my school years in Korea were not quite so bright,
Hmm.
for the first couple of years at least.
Okay. And if you were to pick one moment from your childhood or early adulthood that acted as a foundational stone for your character, what would it be? So maybe you can choose any kind of moment from Korea or America. It's up to you, but it's I just wondered, like personally,
Mm.
as a third culture kid, like where do you feel you are belong to? Like it's kind of hard to choose one country, right?
Yes, it was hard, and for a while I felt like, my feet weren't quite touching the ground. I felt like, I was just trying to achieve the next thing, like this stage in life would eventually lead to another stage. And I guess I was just trying to work to be ready for that next stage. It might have been a little bit because due to my experience as a international student in the US because I was there on a visa, and in order to be a legal alien, legal
Mhm.
resident, I would need to get a job. And then after that, I would need to prove myself to get residency and citizenship eventually. So it always seemed like I was working towards something. Um, and my identity, I guess it gave me sort of an ability to look at things from a different perspective,
Mm.
because I wasn't taught how I should look at it from a certain viewpoint. Um, an example, maybe, I don't know, I just thought it really weird when I was first in elementary school in Korea, and we were expected to just stand in the uh, field, soccer field, and wait for the principal to start the daily announcements. And I was like, this is
Right.
so weird. But I guess for the other students, it was pretty common.
Hmm. So, do you think you found your identity like in US or in Korea? Like, where is your root? Like, it's kind of hard to say it, but my favorite movie is Moana. You know
Hmm.
why? Because she's always calling, her name and say, I'm from where? Because I think this is really about like, like keeping her identity. And sometimes like I feel that without having the root, and it's kind of hard to identify myself. You know what I mean? So I was wondering like, if you couldn't find the ground to stand on, like how did you figure out yourself like while you're growing up?
That was very difficult because as a child, the longest I stayed at a place was probably about 4 to 5 years. And because of my parents' profession, we moved quite often until we moved back to Korea. And when I was in Korea, I didn't feel like I fit in. So I did a lot of, I tried to find my identity through reading.
Mm.
And I guess rather than the people around me, I've tried to find solace in books. But, it's a little bit different from having your own roots. And that's something I struggled in way into young adulthood. Right now, I feel much more comfortable in Korea, and I can finally say that, oh, hey, I'm Korean. But it wasn't an easy process. Um, but it's something I felt like I gradually learned through my experience and years here.
I have lots of like Korean American friends and also Korean Canadian friends. They were struggling with their own identities and they were talking about how difficult it was even to communicate with their own parents.
Mm,
Um, yeah, and also some of my um, students, they're thinking about going to America
mhm,
permanently, like to immigrate there. But I usually give them the advice that like it's not going to be easy because your identity is going to be shifted and you have to figure out who you are like all by yourself. Um and also the reflections are quite different from others, like how you look at yourself, you know what I mean?
mhm.
Yeah, so I was wondering, like, as a young person, JeongEun, like, how you figure out yourself there. And congratulations. I know it's kind of odd to say it, but I know it's hard to find yourself. And now you can say, I'm Korean, finally. That's a great statement.
Mhm.
And you probably found your comfort zone.
I
Okay.
definitely do. Yes. Thank you very much, Shine. And yes, it's definitely difficult, especially if you don't have community around you. And if your parents and your relatives have immigrated, it might be a little bit easier. I think the reason why church plays such an important place in Korean society in the US is because gives a sense of community.
Mm.
Although I wasn't really part of that, but I can definitely understand why it's important and why people would gravitate towards these institutions. Um, yes, especially although they do say that America is a country made of immigrants.
Mm.
It's a little bit different if you are the first generation,
Right.
and you need a little bit more resolve. As for me, I wasn't voluntarily taken there as a child, but at that moment, it was a pretty insulated society because I was just going to school and back home, and I didn't really have these social interactions outside of that framework. And it was before the age that children really think about differences.
Mm,
Now,
mm,
my experience was much more different when I came back as a young adult in high school.
mm,
Then there were cliques, and students had an idea of who they were and
mm,
who they weren't.
mm.
So, yes, uh, it was more difficult then to sort of fit in, as I should
Well,
say.
yeah, I cannot imagine like as a child like feeling like a perpetual outsider all the time must be very, very hard. And yeah, so in America, you're likely the Korean girl, I guess, even though you said like there are so many different races in America, but they still have kind of racism right there. So you might be seen as the one who lived abroad. And where did you feel most like your true self during those years then? Like you said,
That's
you're not
interesting
really,
because I didn't
yeah.
really feel like myself with the other Korean students
Mm,
either.
right.
And I didn't quite identify with the Korean American students.
Mm,
Besides that, I think I felt a little bit more at peace or a little bit more comfortable with the so-called band geeks, um, because it seemed like they were more accepting. Oh, yeah, band geeks, like yes, like percussion and marching bands.
awesome.
Like I
Ah,
wasn't an
okay.
instrument player myself, but I found that I gravitated more towards
Mm,
those students because they had less of a preconception of who you should
mm, mm,
be.
mm, mm,
And
mm,
I think it was a little bit because from the fact that they might have felt a little bit unaccepted as well from
mm.
the cool kids, so say.
Okay.
Yeah. So to long answer short, didn't really fit in and didn't really identify with any of the groups, but
Right.
I felt a sort of kinship with the other misfits or outcasts.
Hmm. A very interesting childhood you had. Yeah, I didn't expect that you can say that like I couldn't belong to the Korean students, but neither to those Korean Americans as well. Hmm. Then when you came back to Korea, did you find yourself here? Did you feel that you belong to the Korean society when, like finally you adopted the new culture here?
Definitely not at first.
Hmm.
And it's been almost 10 years since I've moved back. It didn't come naturally, but I think through a lot of effort as well as experience, I've become more comfortable with who I am here. And also, Toastmasters was part of that journey as well.
Hmm. Really helpful, isn't it? Like writing about your past experiences and who you are and see the reflections through the speeches.
Mhm.
Actually, you can feel who you're turning into as well. And I think that's why Toastmaster culture is really beautiful. It's not just about delivering speeches, but figuring out like who you truly are.
Yes, especially when you're preparing speeches, you have to think about what you want to say, and then in that process, you draw upon your experiences. So it's a good exercise in making sense of your own journey and putting it into a context. And yes, also, I have to say the culture of positivity,
Mm.
I think that was very important in my reshaping my view of the world. So we have these meetings, and even if you're very inexperienced and not the best speaker, um, in Toastmasters, you're welcome to have a part in the stage and to present your own ideas. And
Yeah,
yeah, I think
it's not
just
just
having
about
that type of culture was uh, very encouraging. Yes.
right, right. It's not just about the language as well. Like even though they are not fluent speakers, it's all about like supporting each other and also like yeah, delivering what you have in you.
Hmm.
Mm. And yeah, like I like to move on to the question, which is I see you as a strong, capable leader, JeongEun district uh but what is it, president, right? No, no,
Uh,
no, no.
Division director.
Yeah, division director, sorry. Division director. So could you share a story of a time when you felt completely lost or small and how you found the way back to yourself? On the stage, like I think it's common to feel like I lost my mind. Oh my gosh, I don't know what to say. You know, like those kind of moments. Did you have that? You're such a
Oh, yes,
fluent
of
speaker,
course.
so really.
I mean, to start off, I first tried out the speech contest in 2024. Although I had been a Toastmaster for about 6 years at that point, but the idea of competition never really appealed to me. One of my club mates, however, club members, encouraged me to give it a try. And that's uh, that's when because, well, to put it this way, there was no one who had volunteered in the club. And I felt like I'd gotten a lot from the club, so I told myself, why not? And although, I didn't go to the finals, that journey was so rewarding. Um, Not just in that I learned how to be a better speaker, but because of how I saw these fellow members um, participate and improve themselves despite some setbacks, you know, and seeing them encourage other fellow contestants, even though they might be on the stage competing against each other. That made me realize that Toastmasters really is an organization for uh, mm, encouraging each other's growth. So that's my experience in Toastmasters and why I decided to become a district officer. So, following that experience, I applied as an area director and then division director, which I am currently,
Mm-hmm.
because I seen what Toastmasters can do in these members' lives, and I wanted to be a part of that process.
Thank you for taking the like division director position because just seeing you as a leader, like I'm learning a lot, and also how you like show your even like here you show your vulnerability, not being afraid of share your deepest thoughts and also um yeah, like share your past experiences even though it's really tough. And it's something, like when I was thinking about you, she must be a perfectionist and great leader. And, like the universe, she's like so in high place. But now you're down to the earth and like sharing those stories. made me feel that, young JeongEun, I see you, young JeongEun, struggling, and she finally found herself in Korea and having the confidence and also leading others to be, I don't know, like strong like you. And it's going to be the last question. Looking back, what is one American value you've held onto tightly and one Korean value you've come to appreciate more because you were away from it?
Mm, okay. One American value and
And
one
one
Korean
Korean
value.
value.
Okay, that's fitting. So, one American value that I really cherish is having a sense of an open mind, don't have any preconceptions of what someone should be like and how things should go, because you never really know what their background is or what their story is. And that's something we can lose a bit in this society when we see things that when we think that things should be a certain way. Um, and one Korean value is it might be it sounds a little bit contradictory, but no, the sense of community, like
Mm,
just uh checking in with your um fellow coworkers or classmates. That's some, although, you could say it's situational, but I think for someone to live in the society, we just can't live it as an individual. That's something that I learned through my journey in the US and in Korea. But mm, caring about other people, I think that's where um, we truly begin to understand each other and, um, you know, make a better environment.
right. That's
Sorry,
so
Shine,
beautiful.
I'm
No, no,
a
no,
little
no, no.
bit rambling.
No, that was beautiful because just like language itself, we always call 우리나라, 우리 집, 우리 가족, right? We're depicting ourselves as a whole, like community. And yeah, like you appreciate that. And I do as well. I hated actually when I was young, I hated to be included like that because I lost my individualism and I was like, this is not me. And if they are going to talk about them, then why do they have to include me all the time like this? But now I do appreciate the community and also how people care for each other, just like you. Like I had tough childhood too, like just figuring out myself, but I found that art was my first language, so
Mm,
it didn't really matter. I was hanging on to it. And
mm.
I think you maybe had like similar experience. You found your own way to figure out who you are by reading books and also having those band gigs.
Yeah, I mean, it, I do worry a little bit because I might have overshared. I mean, usually, you know,
Mm-mm.
you'd want, I think it might have been too much depressing and
Actually, I interviewed one of my friends. He was also Korean American. He moved to America when he was
um,
9, but he struggled with finding his identity here and there.
uh,
He didn't feel that he belonged to there. So I was asking him about like how do you think this thing affected the relationship between you and your parents? And he was like, yeah, that's a big problem for Korean Canadians and also Korean
Mm,
Canadian society. Like they don't have good relationships with their parents because they can't really rely on parents. They have to grow up really fast. And
mm.
the relationship is quite different. And just, talking about that, some people have American dreams or Canadian dreams. They think that like everything will be okay there because education system is better there, they think. But
Mm.
they really have to think about like what kind of problems kids will face.
I think it's about finding a place that makes you feel comfortable. And,
Mm,
I just remembered this right now. I guess the thing I just wanted to get across is although things seem like they horrible at the time, things will improve gradually
mm,
and
mm,
you will find yourself one way or another.
right. Oh, that's
Yeah.
a great closer, actually. All
Uh,
right. And thank you for letting me have this interview. And I like to see you next time.
all right. Have a nice night, Shine.
Thank you for allowing me have this interview, JeongEun. Bye bye. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey today. JeongEun's story reminds us that even when our roots feel unclear and the path seems difficult, we eventually find our home and our true self. It's about finding the community and the places that make us feel comfortable. Thank you, JeongEun, for being so open and vulnerable with us. If you enjoyed this episode, everyone, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review and share this with a friend who might need to hear. And this is it. Keep shining. See you next time.